Hey everybody, this is Charles Morgan from Coin Week. Happy Thursday. This is March 26, 2020, and I'm back with our stream today to talk a little bit about coins. You might hear in the background the sound of a power tool. The minute I decided I was going to do this and got all my stuff together, one of the neighbors decided that we need to do a home improvement project. So if you hear that and it annoys you, I do apologize. I promised yesterday that I would kind of put together a few things that I picked up over the years as the editor of Coin Week and kind of tell a few stories about them and how I came upon them and why I think they're a little bit neat. Also, I went through our archives of unpublished video clips, and I have a cool video of something that maybe you haven't seen from a coin show with Fred Weinberg. So before I get into my things, I'll share that clip with you right now.
These were blobs of hot wax that the mint puts over the die to prevent them from being contaminated by dust and other chemicals while they're in the die room. At some point, it could be 2 weeks later, a month or two later, the container holding the dies is moved to the press room, and these are removed and thrown away. This particular group is all from the mid-1980s that a mint employee took and kept. And they're fine because it's plastic. So the mint doesn't consider them contraband at all. But it's an illustration of what the mint does to prevent their dies from being damaged or contaminated or rusted or corroded. And I call it mint memorabilia. Right. And in the West Point Mint, they put sheets of saran wrap over them to protect them. I don't know if the mints in San Francisco, Denver, or Philadelphia still use this technique or another way to prevent the dies. But in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, they use these. And each mint has a different color. Denver uses a green wax, and Philadelphia uses a red wax. I've only seen a few from Denver and a few from Philadelphia. There happen to be a group of these from the San Francisco mint.
That's so cool. So cool. I remember when we were filming that, we also did a bicentennial quarter that he had with a missing clad layer, which is really cool. But I'd never seen anything like those wax die and hub seals, so I thought they were really neat. Never really figured out what to do with that footage, but we have these streams, I can put them up for you. Okay, so I've been traveling the country with Coin Week. We started out, Hubert and I set out in the beginning of our writing career. We wanted to write a book idea that never got picked up, even though we pitched it around, and I think it's still a great idea. But we decided, well, maybe not enough people know about us, so we should write more, and we started writing for Coin Week, and eventually that we leveraged our talent and our insight into full-time jobs with Coin Week. I became the editor. Hubert joined a little bit later as my assistant editor, and he's a very instrumental part of what you see every day on Coin Week, even though it's a lot of it's behind the scenes, copy editing, article selection, and whatnot. And what we used to do when we were writing full-time columns, we would write these lengthy columns for Coin Week. And Hubert and I would probably take 30 or 40 hours a piece. We were writing mammoth pieces with what we thought were unique insights into topics that usually don't get covered all that much. And the funny thing is some of that required me to go completely out of my depth when we were picking topics. And one of the things that I would find things that I hadn't heard about or knew much about at all, but things that I discovered and I thought were really fascinating. The last article that we started before I became full-time as the content manager at Coin Week and then later the editor was going to be a piece on the numismatic legacy of Expo 70, which took place in Osaka, Japan. And in the United States, there were several opportunities for American collectors to get modern or contemporary Japanese coins, and one of them had a commemorative, I believe it was 1,000 yen coin for Osaka 70. But what I didn't know at the time was that there were just innumerous medals, medallions, and whatnot for this major global exposition. This is one of the items that I picked up along the way in the research of that article. We never completed that article. It's a shame. And one of the reasons we never completed it is we quickly realized just how much stuff there was. And it was just impossible for me to get everything. So this is that's gilt. That's not actual gold, but these are 3 metals. Let me see if I can do this for you here. And they have in the original souvenir packaging. And I just find these really interesting. So this was basically the beginning, if you will, of me traveling the country with Coin Week. I first started traveling with David Lasso, who was a partner at Coin Week at the time, one of the founders. And David would travel the country filming videos, short video segments, which is how I learned that trade. And he would introduce me to all sorts of dealers and people in the industry. And I've had the good fortune of having a lot of good mentorship, good advice given to me. And the hobby at large, the industry at large, has embraced what we do and what I do. And I'm very fortunate for that. Along the way, we get a couple different interesting things. And these are going to be shared with you in no particular order of when I got them. This is cool. This is a business card from Mint Director David Reiter. And you see he signed it. And he also has a proof penny, and I believe this is the 2019 W penny that's in his card. And that is just really cool. I wouldn't get this coin graded because it's a business card and it's probably been handled quite a bit. But if you've never seen a card, this has to be kind of scarce. I don't know how many he has given out over the years, but he gave me this. I probably just shared his phone number. Don't call it, please. So that's David Reiter. Also, at the August 2014 PCGS luncheon, we got a cool lowball barber quarter. You see it right there. And this was given to everybody who attended. Of course, PCGS conducts their luncheons to go over their set registry award winners. And this is back when BJ Searles was overseeing that. So this is a lowball set registry quality. It's got a nice rim ding in it. It's a 1909. You can barely make out the date. And believe it or not, this is my only barber coin in my collection. Scott Purvis, who's who is the founder of Coin Week, has been conducting a weekly coin giveaway. Check it out if you haven't already. We have given away a coin of some value. We graded Silver Eagle all the way up to coins that are worth over $100. And we do this every week. We've done it for, I think, at least 5 years now, every week. And one of the things I discovered that was a little bit off the beaten path is that Collectors Universe, owner of PCGS, also is the owner of PSA, that grades sports cards, Pokemon cards, Magic the Gathering cards. And one of the things that I discovered is that PSA used the PCGS capsule for coins to grade a very limited number of numismatic items, whether they are sports tokens that were released in the 60s and 70s, but they also graded the 1992 Baseball Hall of Fame dollar coin. I don't know how many they graded. I haven't really looked it up, but the idea caught my attention, and I'm like, whoa, as a coin collector and somebody who knows PCGS quite well, I had no idea that they had done this. And so I reached out to them, and I'm like, would you have PSA grade some Baseball Hall of Fame coins for us, and we'll give them away on the Coin Week giveaway. It'd be so cool. Well, I talked to Vice President Mark Stevenson about it, bought the coins on the market, sent them in for grading, willing to pay the fees, yada, yada, right? Unfortunately, last minute they decided that they didn't want to continue the program of having PSA grade coins, even to make samples for us to give away. But they were kind enough to put it in a baseball holder and write Coin Week Podcast, which he suggests is a sponsor of, and they graded the coins. So there are 2 in this holder that exist, and we just haven't given them away. We probably will. I don't know why we haven't. I've offered Scott the opportunity, but he has so many great coins that he has picked up through various vendors over the years to give away that we just haven't gotten to them. But anyway, 2 of this label, and that's clearly Nolan Ryan from his 1992 Topps card. Or 1990 Topps card. I can't remember. I think it's his 1990 Topps card. I had that card. I clearly bought all that Topps Upper Deck, Donruss, Fleer, all that stuff I bought at the time. Bob Evans, we've interviewed on Coin Week. He is basically the head researcher for the SS Central America. He worked on the recovery of that, and he also has been the face of the promotion of that. And our friend Mike Fulgens was involved in the marketing of some of that material. He's a major coin dealer out of Beaumont, Texas, and a sometime Coin Week sponsor. And so he sent me these granules of gold that were recovered from the SS Central America and a PCGS holder with Bob Evans' signature on it. And it's got this kind of neat kind of gold side to it. I guess that's like a sticker or something. But anyway, I got this, a little bit of gold, never hurt anybody. And this was recovered, and there you go, Bob Evans' signature label. Also, PCGS in 2017 relaunched their coin periodical, the Rare Coin Market Report. The beginning of PCGS was built around David Hall's newsletter that he would write, and PCGS has provided quite a bit of in-house numismatic research for the community. And so when they were relaunching the Rare Coin Market Report, they put a set of coins together here, 5-coin set. These are 1-cent coins with a shield, and they have different signatures. So you have here Ron Guth, David Hall, Phil Arnold, and Michael Sherman. And so they are involved here in this program, and I have all these samples with their signatures on it. Quite cumbersome. I think I have 2 sets I was given, I think, and they just, that's almost half a blue box. I went to CoinX last year. My friend Rob Oberth, who's the head of Coin Dealers, helping at Coin Dealers, he put that on, and he invited me to come and do some streaming to promote the show and to talk to dealers, which we did. One of the things he had given out was a sample with NGC of an American Innovation dollar. I'll share that with you right there. And this is a sample slab for the CoinX show powered by Roundtable Trading. And so that was a very good experience for me. It's a high wire act to be live, folks. The technology isn't overly complicated, but things can go wrong. You have to maintain your composure and your cool, and you kind of have to have a pretty good understanding of the material. So you have to make a quick study. If you get a topic you're not so sure about, you haven't read a lot about, before you get that personality on the air, you gotta kind of bone up on your subject matter. One of the cool things I have is a map here of Vienna, Austria. I know it's not much, but when we were invited by the Austrian Mint, Hubert and I, for Coin Week, to go to Vienna to film behind the scenes at the Austrian Mint. They had one of the most amazing operations you've ever seen. A beautiful engraving department with a library, the tightest security you will ever see to get in and out. Gold coins by the boatload, 2-ton strips of gold coin strip being processed and lifted by forklifts. Beautiful euro coins being created by modern presses, not touched by humans, everything done on an automated fashion. It was a great experience. We published those videos on our YouTube channel, which I invite you to check out. And then we also took a quick stop to the Mint gift shop, where I picked up this collector item here. This is a 2016 New Year's coin from the Austrian Mint, and it has the Vienna Philharmonic picture there on the packaging. So that was from our great trip there, and we used this map to sort of get around and see some of the sites, including the Kunsthistorische Museum, which again we were fortunate because the Austrian Mint had so many connections to get to film that behind the scenes. In 2014 in Baltimore, the United States Mint launched the National Baseball Hall of Fame coin program, and it was a smash success. The gold coin sold out almost instantly, and dealers were lined up for the better part of an hour or two to get their hands on the new curved coins. I had this idea that David Lasso and I would go and try to spend one of the coins, $50 or something, buying something, and just film the reaction of the person accepting the coin. What I did not realize at the time is that it would be a very big hassle to even get a coin. Luckily, after the show was over, a coin dealer friend of mine came by and gave me this Baseball Hall of Fame silver dollar. And by that time, we had already packed up our gear and it was too late to go out and spend it. But I have a coin, and that was the idea behind getting it. And that's how it actually went down. The only thing I experienced similar to that was when I waited in line to get that 2019 reverse enhanced reverse proof coin, which was a 5-hour long wait. And people were basically being paid between $130 to wait all day for it and $1,000 to buy one or to sell theirs. An incredible experience, to say the least. I've been working with Whitman off and on as a price guide analyst for the Red Book for a few years, and in that vein, we get a special Red Book as contributors each year, and this looks the same as your standard hardback version, but when you open it up, it's a little bit different. You have a front page that says presentation copy for, and then your name, and then signed by Ken Brissett. Then that's probably Jeff Garrett now, who's taken over for Ken, and limited to just the people on the inside of the book where it says contributors. And I have these for a number of years. Over the years, like I said, off and on, I've helped with this. I've provided pricing for the classic commemorative coins, for some modern dollars, including Eisenhower dollars. I helped them configure their pricing grid for that. In the past, the Eisenhower dollar section essentially was like extra fine 45 and MS 63, and I sort of had them flesh that out because that, at least in that case, the market is way more sophisticated in those two grades, and also I'm probably a downer when it comes to pricing because I think more often than not, like I'll put in pricing that's lower. Of course, it's not just one person's opinion that goes in the Red Book. It is a consensus, and I don't know if I'm in the consensus there, but I do base my pricing evaluations on statistically sound interquartile basically analysis, seeing what the middle 50% is selling for, and then putting the outliers out, the super PQ toners and the things that are really garbage. So anyway, there you go. There's what the Red Book contributor copies look like. And then last year, this was a great thrill for me. I got my friends Ken Brissett and Q David Bowers to sign the 2020 copy for me. Whitman was holding a signing for those two iconic figures in the industry. Now, speaking of iconic events, as you know, we've talked about in recent streams the Pogue Collection. Now, the Pogue Collection is a major collection of U.S. coins collected by one of the wealthiest families in the country. These coins were big dollar items bought by more wealthy people. But we were on hand to film the first 5 Pogue sessions. The first 4 were held at Sotheby's retail sale floor in New York City, and the last one was held at the Carriage House, which was owned by the Garrett family in Baltimore. All these were great auctions, and we filmed them and published them on coinweek.com. At the first sale session, Stack's Bowers had given out a box of these cards to some of the VIPs who were there in attendance. The cards had full-color illustrations of several of the key coins in the collection. They open up for space you can write. This, of course, is the 1804 Dunham Bareford silver dollar, the child's example, finest known. Here is a 1795. Just look at that. Even the picture of the coin looks like amazing. This was the 13 leaf from the Garrett collection. This is the 10 Ake Holmes 1796 quarter dollar, the key of that denomination, finest known. This is the 1794 Lord St. Oswald, $1794. This is one of the finest known. You also have this 1793 chain America Cent from the Garrett collection. And it goes on and on. And that was just a cool little set that I was able to get from the auction. They provided me a copy, and also got the paddle. Bidder number 550. I don't know if that was an active bidder or if this was one of the extras, but I certainly didn't have the means to raise this for any of those major coins. Maybe some of the half dimes, but then I would have gotten home and my wife would have killed me. You spent $5,000 on what? Also, later, after the sale was concluded, Stax Bowers, I'm reaching over this chair here. Stax Bowers was kind enough to send me a complete set of the leather-bound editions of the Pogue sale. And you can see that this is heirloom quality catalog. Our friend John Krailovich, a fellow UVA alum, was the lead writer behind most of this. Spent the better part of a year and a half working on it. And it has this great embossed eagle on the front, and it's just a really classy thing. This is the kind of volume that you'd see Colby and Fanning offering, for big dollars. I think these are probably $250 each when they came out. So it's great part of my collection. I do collect auction catalogs. It's not as quite robust a collection as my periodical collection is. But some of the major catalogs like the Trumpeter's Sale and I got the 1933 Double Eagle Stax sale. I got a special edition of that, and going back to some of the collections from Stax in the 50s and 60s, some of the BMAX mail catalogs, all the way back to a couple Chapman sales I have. But again, there are some major collectors of numismatic literature who I would love to visit their libraries and just sit there all day and look at what they have. I think you can learn a lot about the hobby by seeing all the periodicals, the way coins were presented and talked about over the years. PCGS, this more recent, has launched PCGS Banknote. It's their new currency grading business that they operate out of their main headquarters where they grade coins. This is a new development for them as they discontinued their relationship with Jason Bradford and PCGS Currency. They were grading banknotes overseas, their Gold Shield service, but now they're grading domestically. And I was able to get my hands on some samples of their new holders. Interestingly enough, I'm out of Richmond, and these notes are from Richmond. So there is kind of a local connection for me, but these are 2017 Federal Reserve notes and that new PCGS banknote holder, which is kind of neat. My friend Michael Chu, who's a major coin dealer basically who's in America a lot, but is also out of China. He invited us to go to help him record the production of a medal that was being struck to mark the friendship between China and Germany, culminating with the gift of pandas to the Berlin Zoo. And we filmed this. It was very hectic, and we put this on our Coin Week video channel. But he also had the director of the Shanghai Mint with him. I got my hands on one of the medals here. You see the Chinese pandas. It's a high relief. It's got the, let's try to twist it here. It's got the little Great Wall of China, and then you got the gate Brandenburg Gate there in Germany. But the director also provided me a few really neat medals that he had produced at the Shanghai Mint that he brought to give the Mint employees, or the director of the Berlin Mint. So here's one. This is a sort of a friendship medal in bronze. It's got a great rooster. That's really neat. I think this is a limited edition item, if I'm not mistaken. This is number 487. And then they have this very big medal here. I'll share with you for the Shanghai Mint. Comes in this deluxe wooden case. The metal is so imposing that I think it's like breaking the case. And then you open it up and look at this thing. This is just a hunk of metal here. Okay, and it's like it's a Shanghai Tower there, like a skyscraper, and it's got this great modern look at that. It's a pretty big metal, folks. This thing's heavy too. It's like the weight of an ashtray. And this is number 1573, and a great product from the Shanghai Mint. Another thing Michael Chu was involved in was a major donation to the Smithsonian Institution on behalf of the family of Howard Boker. Boker was a major expert of Asian numismatics and had some great rarities that Michael was able to basically have the family willingly donated to several museums in Europe, Asia, and the National Numismatic Collection. On May 12, 2017, the Smithsonian held a private function where they discussed the donation, and NGC, which is a major contributing body to the collection, was kind enough to certify these silver coins for the exclusive viewing. Probably about 100 of these were given out. And you can see on the back. So again, it's got like sort of a nature scene, and the heart is really neat. So I was fortunate enough to get that. And I think these were limited edition too. This was number 446. Another, again, a product for the Shanghai Mint. In 2016, I was invited to attend the World Mint Directors Conference in Bangkok, Thailand. And one of the reasons I was invited is because I was there to speak to the directors of the mints and their marketing personnel about what I looked at as a coming numismatic apocalypse, where the mints were creating way too many products for the market to bear, that it's not sustainable for collectors. And one of the parts of my advocacy was explaining to people that collectors buy coins not as consumer products. It's not like you get a phone. A coin's not like an iPhone, where you get it and you use it and you enjoy its features, and then when the next technology comes out, you move on and either dispose of the phone or you just put it away and you don't care. Coins are bought, enjoyed to a certain level, and then the hope is that you can sell them. I got that sun beaming in there. I'll move my screen here so you don't see that. And so what I was trying to convey to them is that when you create products for the market, you want to make sure. Sorry, folks, the sun's shining. I can't escape it. So you want to create products that have a value that people can get something out of when they sell it. And I understand that the numismatic premium of a coin is not it's not fungible, will not always be there. It'll go up and down, oftentimes down. But the mints have to bear some responsibility in what happens to the product after it's in the market. And so I was trying to say, now would be a good time to start to think in your marketing of coins, what you can do for the wholesale market to take unwanted material off the market and destroy it. Imagine, if you will, the U.S. Mint creating a silver dollar program and then having a way for dealers to sell the coins back to them for a value a little bit over spot. So that way, when someone comes in and says, I got a 1990 commemorative dollar, I'd like to sell it to you, the dealer doesn't say, oh, well, I'm only going to give you spot for it. And then they're like, oh, I thought these had more value than that. And they're like, sorry, they made millions of them. So my idea was that the mints create an equilibrium where there's enough product being pulled off the market so that the value in the coin begins to accumulate. Eventually, nobody wants to destroy the coins because they're worth more than spot. And that was essentially what I was trying to drive at. And also to convey to them that if they take the Krause catalog for the 20th century and compare it to what the Krause catalog of the 21st century would look like by the time we get to the end of this 100 years, that the new volume would be 14,000 pages of new coins, be far bigger than any other catalog in history, and that they need to understand that they're creating so many coins that nobody in the market is going to be able to collect them all or have any sort of organizational structure to it or whatever. The sound I got after giving this what I thought was very thought out, reasonable presentation was crickets, because I don't think it's in the budget or the design or the thinking of any of these mints to curtail what they're doing to think about sustainability of their market. I've often asked U.S. Mint directors, I think I've asked 3 or 4 in a row, if while they were there, if they had thought about the future-proofing the mint, for the United States, I think future-proofing the mint means creating higher denomination coins that would circulate. And the point I make was that in an experiment that I started on Coin Community Forum 2011, where I asked collectors to spend $100,000 worth of dollar coins, which they've done many times at this point. They've infused the economy with more of these coins than would have otherwise happened. The thing I noticed is that $1 isn't valuable enough to be a spending coin. It's like you wouldn't think about spending a quarter unless you absolutely had to, right, at a parking meter or something. But the same holds true for $1. $1 doesn't buy anything. And my point is that I'm not going to go to Chipotle Grill, plug right there. They make tokens, by the way. And I wouldn't go there and buy my burrito and my drink with $11 or $12 coins. You wouldn't have a roll of a sack of coins in your pocket just for the eventuality of buying lunch. But if there was a $5 or $10 coin, maybe you get 2 of them and you buy your lunch with it. Also, for the collector market, I think that collectors would be interested in actual coins of higher denominations. I mean, there's just, the penny can only go so long. I think they should have discontinued it after 2009. But they've chosen not to, and it's just basically a worthless token. If you take the nickel, it's basically worthless. The dime is basically worthless. And again, going back to 1857 when they phased out the half cent, adjusting for inflation, the half cent there is probably worth 12, 15 cents today. And they thought that that was worthless enough to get rid of it. And now you only have the quarter that's worth more than the half cent was. So the quarter today is probably worth a little more than a penny was in 1857. And it's the only coin we have that circulates that has any appreciable value whatsoever. And so none of the mint directors had any idea of how to future-proof the mint. They really weren't interested in it. It wasn't in their purview. And if you think about it, if you ran a shoe store or a shoe business, you're making shoes or computers or anything else, you're always, as the CEO, thinking about what are we going to do next if demand for shoes dries up? What are we going to do? How do you sustain your business? But the Mint as a government agency has never really been focused on it. And as such, I don't know what the future holds for that industry. Now, the industry at the Mint Directors Conference, they were very concerned about the future. And they were looking at the elimination of the low denomination coins as being very bad thing for them. And if you think about the elimination of the penny, the nickel, the 1 euro cent, 2 euro cent, even the 5 euro cent, that would basically culminate in a reduction of about half of the volume of coins produced in the world. So they were very, very concerned about it. But at the same time, I don't know what the answers are. Clearly, the central banks of the world and the United States Federal Reserve and the Treasury Department are not invested in the future of coins. They are looking at digital currencies, and they're looking at the dollar, the paper dollar, and that is essentially where we're at with that. I think, honestly, that's not good or bad for coin collecting. It could go either way, but usually when things start getting phased out, people look at it and say, well, now you have a closed set, and we can go back and maybe collect all of this. At the Mint Directors Conference, they gave us a number of items, numismatic and otherwise. One of the items they gave us was this medal that was created by the Royal Thai Mint for the 29th Mint Directors Conference. And it's got the little logo here, and it's a pretty neat item. They also gave me this watch. And this has like an elephant, 2 elephants on it, and I've never worn it, but it's pretty neat. A coin watch, they call it. And so there is that. So I got one more item for you, and then I promised I'd share a quarter from my quarter collection. We have some quarter collectors. Actually, no, I got a few more items. They're all books, though. I hope you don't mind. Let me grab it. When we filmed with Jeff Garrett, our behind-the-scenes video of the National Numismatic Collection, Ellen Feingold, Dr. Ellen Feingold, daughter of former Wisconsin Senator Russ Feingold, by the way, gave me a copy of her Value of Money book, which she wrote, which is a really beautiful volume that is being sold through the Smithsonian, and it is lavishly illustrated and shows you many of the things in the collection, and that's definitely worth checking out. My friend Alan Shine, also a Taekwondo expert, by the way, published this book, The $2.50 and $5 Indians of Bella Leone Pratt, which is a great volume, but he gave me this version, 1 of 15, deluxe hardbound edition. It's just beautifully done, and it's essentially the same book, but a great version to go with my Pogue catalogs. And then the last thing, and this is maybe the most meaningful thing I have. One of the first things I became involved with was collecting Eisenhower dollars, and a mentor and a friend of mine was a collector named Rob Ezerman, and Rob was the lead author and one of the main figures behind the Ike Group, and the Ike Group were collectors, serious collectors who studied the Ike dollar and wrote about it extensively on their website. They put out a book called The Collectible Ike Varieties, and this is the private edition that only the Ike Group got, members of the Ike Group got, which I was a member of. And it has extra stuff related to extra research a little bit, but also some personal things. Inside, it was signed by the members of the Ike Group, and just chock full of pictures. A very hard to find book, just in general at this point, but this is a special edition, and it was so big and cumbersome that Rob and I started talking about maybe I would clean it up and write a new version of it, and that version would be for the mass market, but it would contain all the great information, and it would be sort of a definitive edition. And I began work on it in earnest. Along the way, an industry contact of mine, somebody who's very well connected, but I'll leave his name out, had the idea that he wanted me to help him work on a book for coins, and I said, well, I'm working on this Ike dollar book, and this, like I said, if this deal had gone through, this Ike dollar book would have been published in mainstream and could have sold tens of thousands of copies, easy. And so we started working on it, but it just, sometimes these things fall apart and fall through. I became very busy. I became less and less interested in completing the book under the current sort of outline, through no fault of the person who I was working with. It was just the nature of the beast. I got really busy with Coin Week, and so that project fell apart. But I found out at the same time that my friend Q. David Bowers was writing a book for Whitman based on a lot of his research. And I reached out through Dennis Tucker to Dave about it. And I said, well, I know a lot about the Ike Dollar series through my friends with the Ike Group. And maybe I can provide you some details and some information. And so anyway, the result of that was that Dave Bowers wrote the modern guidebook of modern United States dollar coins. And when you get to the Ike dollar section, I'd sent him copious notes, and he was able to use a lot of it. And it was one of the first times, and I was actually really happy about it too, because people who really deserve credit for finding varieties like Herb Hicks and who's no longer with us, and others were mentioned in the book. But also I got quite a few mentions, and there's here's the Charles Morgan commentary and stuff like that. So anyway, that about wraps it up. My neighbors are going nuts with their yard work and drilling, and you probably hear that now. Last coin I'll share with you. This is from my quarter collection. It's not one of the finer things you'll ever see, but it is a story. I was in the Army from 1997 to 2002. And while I was in the Army, my second period of coin collecting began. My first period began when I was a kid. I was an elementary school student. My grandmother got me hooked on coins. That lasted till about through elementary school and middle school. I didn't really have any outlets to buy coins after that. Got into other things. But when I was in the Army, we really didn't have anything to do. I was married. My wife and I were college-educated people. We would sit there and read books, and then I needed another outlet. So I got into coins because there was a coin shop in town. And I bought a coin. It was in a PCI holder, and it was a Proof 70 1970S quarter, and the holder said Cameo on it. And so anyway, I get this coin, and damned if I could see any freaking Cameo on it whatsoever. and now I couldn't tell if it was perfect or not. I mean, at the time I wouldn't know any better. But my first PCGS submission happened a few years later, in I would say my third collecting phase. This is right before I started writing again, and I took the coin and I submitted it to PCGS in my first order, and it came back Proof 68. It didn't have the Cameo designation. And you can probably see why. If there's any frost at all, it's so marginal. It turns out that there is not a lot of frost on the 1968, 69, or 70 proof sets. They start getting more frost later, and they change their technique. But this quarter I never got rid of. It's not worth much of anything at all. But when I started to build my graded set of quarters, I didn't get rid of it just for the sheer reason that this was part of my tuition, my learning process. I never bought another PCI coin after I got this one, and they were 2 points off. But anyway, coin cost me I think $10 in 1999, and the grading fees and 2010 or 11 were probably twice that. So anyway, that wraps it up. Sorry for the noise outside. Sorry for the light behind my head, the haloing effect, the glory of sun rays behind me. But that kind of shows kind of the things you come across when you're just doing the job of being out in the industry. I'm sure every dealer, every numismatic journalist, anybody who travels and does this hobby has similar stories, maybe even some greater things. I was excited to look at Colby and Fanning's sale of Margot Russell's collection of things she had accumulated. She had touched way more numismatic events than I have. But every single person who gets involved in this hobby has a story that goes beyond the actual items, and I'm just happy I could share that with you. I hope you guys have a great day. Have fun with your coins and being with your family, and stay safe. And I will edit today or tomorrow our new podcast where iconic numismatist Harvey Stack joined me to talk about his memories of Stack's 57th Street location. They are moving or have moved, and he's gonna wrap up some of his thoughts about what that location meant to him. That will be our next podcast. So for Coin Week, I'm editor Charles Morgan. I'll see you soon. Happy collecting.